Hello everyone, here we are with a new saga from the channel. This time we will present the saga, The First Super Saiyan. I believe most people have wondered who the first Super Saiyan was and what he did during his life. If you ask yourself that question and want to know the answer, then you come to the right place. If you're curious to know what's going to happen, I recommend that you continue until the end of this video. Don't forget to like the video as this contributes to the growth of the channel, and then share this video with your friends who also like Dragon Ball. That said, grab your lunch, turn off the bedroom lights, and join this incredible saga. Millions and millions of years ago, there was a Saiyan named Wukong. He was one of the first Saiyans to exist. This Saiyan was seen as the father of Saiyans. Wukong was wise and passed his teachings on to the rest of his race, being very intelligent and thinking more with his head than with his heart. Wukong easily realized that the rest of his race ended up losing important resources because of the unstoppable and constant rage that was there in the rest of the race. As Wukong realized this, and because he was clearly more successful than any other Saiyan there, having water and food in abundance and variety, he taught the Saiyans to be rational and calm, so that they could live in peace. As time went by, Wukong became decorated as a god and loved by its civilization because its intelligence and its teachings helped everyone. Saiyans had rituals that were considered sacred and called upon a bit of Wukong's wisdom when needed. Wukong particularly did not like to be treated like a god, as he was a citizen like any other. But Wukong saw that this was helping the people to prosper and live in peace and harmony. As his people passed on their knowledge, the words of Wukong had already spread to all the Saiyans on the planet. Over time, Wukong was getting older and older, and he was already the oldest Saiyan of all. But he managed to remain firm because he used his medicinal knowledge and immense wisdom to find ways to continue living. Not even the most enraged of Saiyans could get irrational with so much anger around Wukong. God Wukong's word changed the temperament of all beings without exception. Even those who were considered infidels respected Wukong, as being a deity or not. His wisdom and compassion were truly respected and worshipped. Wukong once noticed a conflict between those who worshipped him as a divine creature and those who considered him just as a wise old man. Wukong then called a Saiyan from each group to represent all those who held the same or similar opinion. The Saiyans were having a very peaceful and productive debate, while Wukong was just watching and alerting the representatives when one of them was disrespectful, or calling the audience's attention when someone in it made a noise loud enough to interrupt the debate. The Saiyans were arguing with each other for long minutes, and the debate never had a real conclusion. One said that Wukong was genetically the same as the others. He was the same species, and therefore he was like any other, his enormous wisdom being the only difference and nothing else. The other said that there was no rational Saiyan like Wukong, and none so wise like him. So most of the Saiyans faithfully believed in the idea of him being something divine and kind. Wukong, observing where the debate was going, said, "There is no way to prove who was wrong or who was right, because despite being wise, there are still hundreds of thousands of things to be discovered and millions of mysteries to be unraveled. Therefore, as none of the theories were proven wrong or right, the best thing to do would be to respect the belief of your fellow man and not force each other to believe what you want them to believe. After all, that would be unfair and very wrong," Wukong said, and so peace and balance remained intact. Until one day, a ship landed near the house where Wukong lived, and furious warriors belonging to Frieza's race went to Wukong with eyes full of greed, an evil smile on their faces. A part of the people was concerned about the safety of their god, who was already very old, while the other part was more concerned with believing that the word of God would touch the hearts of those evil warriors. The strongest of that race went to Wukong, demanding his knowledge, and Wukong knew they didn't mean well. Wukong tried to warn them, but they just needed to stay calm and be kind, and wisdom would come naturally. But the warriors thought that Wukong knew how to get enough power to achieve immortality, since he knew very well what he had to do to live together. When Wukong realized this, he said that just being kind and practicing meditation would increase their lifespan. The soldiers faced each other. They were confused by what Wukong said, who decided to get out of there as it would be the best option for now. Clearly it wasn't going to work so fast that they got what they wanted overnight. In contrast, Wukong continued to live his life based on meditation and calm. At least it was like that until he met an older girl who found him on a day that Wukong had decided to walk around the planet. This girl had short black hair. She was a little shorter than Wukong. Her name was Jin. Wukong didn't remember seeing her during her lifetime, so it could just be someone who decided to live their life indoors. Wukong started walking along with the girl beside him. Wukong began to dialogue with her. "So why is this the first time I see you here?" asked the Saiyan to the Saiyan girl. The girl immediately replied, I don't usually leave the house. Normally I stay there taking care of things. I also take care of my little brother," answered the Saiyan girl. Wukong was a little surprised, although that was to be expected. Again he replied, "You must carry a great responsibility." "How fantastic. What's your name?" questioned Wukong. The girl was happy to hear that and soon replied, "It's Jin, sir," asked the Saiyan girl with a smile in her eyes. Wukong was enchanted by the girl's name, and then he said, "What a beautiful name, Jin. You must already know me, right?" questioned the Saiyan Wukong. A blush rose on Jin's face. She was shy by Wukong's response. "Yes, Wukong, you are well known around here. Impossible not to know who you are," said Jin with a friendly smile on her face. Wukong was extremely happy hearing that and then spoke. "Thank you. Well, anyway, it's almost night. Hunger is quite harmful. Let's eat something," asked Wukong to the girl who was thinking about Wukong's proposal. Jin couldn't refuse the invitation, so she just accepted, saying, I don't want to bother you, but I accept," Jin replied. Wukong and Jin began to explore the place in search of the meal they were going to eat. They found various exotic foods and ate them deliberately. A feeling arose in Wukong's chest. It was love, a feeling that turned even the wisest of beings into an irrational being. As time passed, the feeling grew. Wukong was even happier to see her, and this was repeated for the next few months. Until, on a peaceful day, ships appeared again on the Saiyan's planet. They were Frieza's race soldiers. The inhabitants fell into crisis and disorder. The soldiers began to invade the village and kill the Saiyans present there. Wukong was meditating, but he was soon interrupted by hearing the screams of the innocent people. Wukong ran, and from afar he heard the cry of his beloved. During that short period, everything was silent. Only the scream of his beloved was echoing in his mind. He ran after those responsible and found them. They were from the enemy army. However, in an attempt to save the girl, one of the Saiyans threw a spear at the soldier who was holding Jin. The spear pierced the soldier, and unfortunately, Jin too. At that moment, Wukong shed a tear. He couldn't believe what was before his eyes. It was just a nightmare, no? But this was real. Wukong exploded with rage and destroyed the enemy army in a matter of seconds. The army leader eventually managed to flee Wukong. The most rational Saiyan was taken by the purest of hatred. He took lives in a matter of seconds. Wukong took the dead body of his beloved, turned his back on his village, and disappeared from there forever. Many years have passed since the previous events in the life of the legendary Wukong. He then decided to get away from all the wild Saiyans and decided to create his own temple by isolating himself from everyone. Wukong understood that he was different from the others, and that he didn't want to become a primate Saiyan like the others, and for that reason he didn't take revenge on the Saiyans responsible for Jin's death. Wukong had become a legend for the Saiyans, and this legend was passed down from generation to generation. But few members of the Saiyan race really believed in this legend, because when Wukong decided that he was going to disappear forever, he left no trace. Once a group formed by 4 Saiyan explorers in one of their great adventure decided to explore a temple very well hidden and difficult to find. That was the mysterious temple of Wukong. They heard legends that the Saiyan god would be alive and that he had his temple in the center of the Saiyan planet. So the Saiyans quartet went looking, as they hoped to find treasures and even knowledge. These curious Saiyans were looking to find more information about the legend of Wukong. They had already talked to even the oldest Saiyans on the planet. They had already looked everywhere. But after a long time looking, they finally found the place that they were looking for so much that it was the temple of Wukong. The explorers were slowly approaching the temple, and Vados, who was the Saiyan responsible for leading the group, walked ahead with courage and caution, as he knew the possibility of there being traps there. Since as he was hidden, whoever built this temple, he most certainly wanted to prevent invaders. Vados and his group walked suddenly, until Vados silently gestured to the rest of the group to stop approaching that ancient building. He took a stone and threw it precisely in a deliberately thin and almost imperceptible line. When breaking that line with the stone, several sharp projectiles came out of the thicket. Vados took one of these projectiles and realized that they were darts. They weren't big enough to kill someone, but at their tip there was a liquid that was probably sleeping. Vados then assumed a worried posture because this type of trap was not supposed to be working after years. So they thought that someone else had found this temple before and was protecting it from what was inside. The explorers had already faced many things together, and that wasn't enough to end their determination and their thirst for information. On the contrary, everyone opened a smile and became even more cautious and excited. When approaching a little closer, the group of Saiyans noticed that there were writings in the ancient form of the language, which were on the outside of the walls, and even some drawings of extinct animals. Whoever built this temple certainly had information from decades ago and certainly had immense wisdom. Knowing how to plant traps with sleeping pills, one of the four Saiyans was beginning to suspect that Wukong was really real and that this was his temple. The young Saiyans, who were sure before that even if Wukong had existed, surely he would already be dead of old age. They were now in doubt because of the environment in which they found themselves. Varos was in front of the stairs that led to the entrance of the temple, but Varos didn't want to enter because the stairs had a strange pattern. When he put his hand on the stairs and pressed them, he noticed that they lowered like a button. However, despite his curiosity, he didn't dare finish pressing and decided to climb the side of the temple and go to the entrance. Varos, together with his group, arrived at the entrance that was incredibly dark. A Saiyan called Kalia, who accompanied him as part of the group, pointed a flashlight at it, revealing that the corridor of the supposed entrance was in the shape of a giant channel, as if it had to get something rolling. The leader of the explorers did not let his friend pass that way, until Kennan, the youngest member of the group, pointed to the top of the temple, exclaiming, "Look, there is a second entrance at the top, and if you analyze it correctly, you will see that the relief that makes up the drawings from a staircase to the top," said the young Saiyan, calling the attention of all his friends. Varos, who was proud of his friend, who despite his age showed great talent, stroked Kennan's head and said, "Very well observed, Kennan. Come on, one at a time," said Varos, leaving Kennan happy. The whole group followed Varos in a single file, with 1.5 meters of distance between each one of the group. Varos glanced at the entrance and then entered, not noticing any traps. All members entered with him. But as soon as Varos took the first step, he ended up stepping on a sound trap. Now, whoever was there in the temple knew that there were invaders. Varos noticed that the entrance he used did not serve as an exit. The people who built the temple planned that when someone noticed that entrance and ended up stepping into a trap, he would be forced to follow the path no matter the danger. Doctome calmed the group and said, "Well, we only have one option now," said Doctome. The members agreed and cheered up again. Filled with courage, they advanced along the path with bravery in their eyes. But they obviously walked more cautiously, as they had been discovered. The owner of the temple decided that he would not move, as he thought that the internal traps would do the trick. First, they walked slowly down a corridor filled with absolute and pure silence. It was a long corridor, and apparently there was nothing. They were walking slowly, afraid of the traps, but apparently there weren't any more. It took them a few minutes to complete the course, because it was a large corridor, and the group was walking cautiously. The corridor had turned to the left, where it would take them to the room of the owner of the temple. The fourth member, who had not yet been introduced, took the lead and then spoke. "There's nothing. Let me go ahead. You can rest assured about that. Leave it to me," said the Saiyan. Varos then retorted, saying, "Hal, it's dangerous. You shouldn't be leading us into a place we know has hidden pitfalls. Stay here and follow me," warned Varos. Hal observed his leader and disobeyed him again. "Come on, Varos. This isn't hard at all. Look and learn," said Hal, showing off. Hal started walking carelessly. He even seemed to be running. Varos tried to catch up with Hal, but he was determined to advance alone and be the leader of the group. While Varos kept with the others, however, Hal ended up activating a trap by stepping on a transparent wire. Hal covered his face with his arms, thinking that something might come to kill him. Then and there, but nothing came. Hal slowly lowered his arms that were protecting his face and then started to create a smile on his face. It wasn't today that Hal would die. At least, that's what he thought. In an instant, a violent breeze hit the place. Dust rose everywhere, and Hal had his vision completely blacked out. In a moment, the dust dispersed, revealing what had happened. Instantly, Varos covered Kennan's eyes. Doctome began to vomit desperately. What had been revealed after the dust dispersed was Hal's destroyed body. That breeze wasn't just a simple wind. Something pushed Hal at high speed, causing his body to crash against the wall and be destroyed in pieces. A more detailed view of Hal's destroyed body would be as follows. His clothes were completely destroyed on impact, except for his pants. His jaw was knocked out of place, leaving only his upper teeth. His feet were ripped off, remaining where he was the moment he activated the trap. All members of the group were in complete shock, especially Doctome, who apparently had been the most shaken by that scenario. Dust covered the transparent wires, making it possible to identify where they were and facilitating the passage to that place. The group continued walking through that location. Again, the entrance doubled. This time, it had been to the right place. They walked and walked for several minutes without fearing what might interfere with their plans. The group continued and continued until they tired and rested for a few minutes. Only in the meantime, hours had passed. The group's rest was over, so they went to the next room. where apparently everything was quiet. Of course they were suspicious, and after everything that had happened, they were traumatized. The only one who hadn't been shaken was Kindred, who had his eyes blindfolded by Varys at the time of what happened to Hal. Of course, after that, they walked for a little longer, and then finally reached the next room, which was a straight corridor. Again, the group walked until Doctome stepped into a trap. The moment he realized that the trap had opened, activated, Doctome began to shed tears and cry in despair. He even tried to run, but unfortunately it didn't work. A pillar emerged from the ground, hitting Doctome's belly right after. A pillar appeared from above, descending and crushing his body at once. His head came rolling off the ground. His eyes were still open and watering. Varys pulled Kindred by the arm and began to run desperately. He didn't know how, but he kept losing his friends in that miserable way. The next room was numbered the number 1. Maybe that meant something, but they didn't know the use of that number. Not yet. When the group arrived at the door of the temple, a smoke appeared, and from the middle of the smoke came Wukong, impressing the group of Saiyans, who said, "Wow, you really exist. We thought you were dead, and that you were just a legend," said the leader of the Saiyan group, surprised as well as the others. Even with the Saiyans surprised, Wukong was very irritated with the appearance of the group in his temple, who shouted to the travelers, "Get out of here now. I don't want you here in my temple. You with your thirst for blood, you killed my beloved Jin. Even after everything I did for you, I know very well what you want, and I'll let you know that I'm not leaving here," Wukong said, visibly irritated by the presence of the Saiyans in the palace. The Saiyans tried to calm him down, saying, "You were our symbol of peace, and that war that killed your Jin happened. Many others happened afterwards, in towns and villages. We need you back. We need you," said the Saiyans, begging for Wukong's help. Wukong got even more enraged with what the Saiyans said, and seconds before he opened his mouth to expel the group, the angel Whis appeared, scaring everyone there. Wukong recognized the form and aura of this being, and being a great reader, Wukong said, "Are you real angels? Where were you all this time, and why are you here now?" Wukong said, surprised, questioning Whis about stopping. Whis ignored Wukong's questions, and agreeing with the group of Saiyans, Whis said, "The short guys are right. You need to go back, Wukong. The future of the Saiyan race depends on it. You know I'm an angel, right? Then you must know well that I am very wise, and that it is better to listen to me." "Oh, and I'm not going to answer those questions you asked," Whis said, looking at Wukong as he spoke. Wukong was silent in the face of the angel's arguments, but after much thought, Wukong replied, "Okay, I can even go back, but I won't help them escape the traps. And not even," said Wukong, looking at the Saiyans, but being interrupted by Whis. The angel interrupted Wukong, saying to the explorers, "Let's go, children. The path is this way. Leave this grouchy old man behind," Whis said, calling the attention of the Saiyan group. Wukong was impressed by the wisdom and power of an angel. Soon after, Whis left the temple and left the Saiyan warriors in their homes, accompanying them and protecting them on the way. Whis told the group that now the angel would be responsible for Wukong. Whis then goes back to the temple, that is Wukong's hideout, and there he looks at the horizon, waiting for Wukong's arrival. While waiting, Whis heard someone calling him in the distance. Whis went to the voice that called him, and after passing through pastures, crossing streams and climbing mountains, Whis found the owner of the voice that called him. The voice belonged to Wukong, who questioned him. "Why didn't you come faster?" said Wukong, questioning Whis' delay. The angel made a disgusted face at the Saiyan. So Whis took a deep breath and turned his head and said, "I was waiting for you after I left the group of Saiyans in their homes, but you didn't show up. So I heard someone calling me and I came to see who was calling me. And on the way I found these delicious fruits. Taste them and see how delicious they are," Whis said in a sarcastic tone. He was a little angry for having been waiting for Wukong. Wukong looked scared at the fruit that Whis was holding and said, "Are you crazy? That is a poisonous fruit. Knocks down even the strongest of men," Wukong said, warning Whis of the dangers of that fruit. Whis, who was impressed, said, "But they're so delicious. I've never seen these fruits harm anyone." "Well, if I don't overdo it, I won't suffer from the fruit toxin, so I think I'll eat some," Whis said, managing to get around the situation. Wukong ignored what Whis said and vented, saying, "Look, I wanted to continue, but I'm not able to. I lost that calm and that focus that I had before. I no longer have the ability to be someone who fights for peace. How could a being like me, so impatient and furious, be the symbol of peace? Come on, tell me," Wukong said, lamenting his current state. Whis put his arms on Wukong's shoulders and said, trying to calm him down, "Look, this feeling of peace and tranquility, they are not part of the kind of thing that we lose and never find again. Your situation is perfectly reversible. And I already knew you would have such a problem. Even more so after losing your loved one to your own race. I'm in charge of taking care of you and your stress problem, so rest assured that I'll help you, Whis said, trying to calm down Wukong. Wukong looked at Whis as if he were suspecting him. Whis noticed Wukong's look and said, "Come on, focus on your anger. You need to release her. Use your anger for something. Take your anger out on something and leave the rest to me," Whis said, leaving Wukong without reaction. Wukong didn't want to do any of that, but Whis insisted. "Go there, do something, move. Do you think Jin would like to see you soft like that? I doubt it," Whis said, trying to use Wukong's dead lover as motivation for the Saiyan. Wukong exploded with rage at this provocation from Whis. It took him a few seconds to notice that there was someone else besides them in that location. When Wukong realized, his anger began to subside, and the mood was pleasant again. Whis laughed at what had happened to Wukong and then introduced a special guest. This is Kennan. He is an apprentice who has been doing very well lately. He is very good at dealing with problems, such as his anger management, Whis said, introducing his newest disciple.
Wukong watched Kennan attentively and thought to himself what would be the reason for Whis to be there with his apprentice. Whis noticed that Wukong was restless, and already imagining the reason, Whis faced the Saiyan god and said, "I imagine you want to know why we're here. Don't worry, I'll explain. This young angel is in the process of learning, and I'm training him to be a great angel. The power Kennan already has, but he needs experience," Whis explained with a smile, while Wukong was quite surprised by that. Wukong, still confused, exclaimed, "But what do I have to do with that?" questioned Wukong, angry, looking at the angels who were calm. Whis chuckled and said, "Kennan is in the process of becoming one of the new angels. My apprentice is in the training phase. What I'm going to propose will be something like an exchange. He learns, and in return, you, Wukong, evolve learning with Kennan. After all, I don't know very well, but I believe that your path as the Saiyan god will directly influence the Saiyan race in the future. In addition, you will gain a bonus and increase your warrior skills even more. What do you say?" questioned Whis, facing Wukong, who was very thoughtful, watching the young Kennan, who remained calm and serene all the time. Wukong, after calming down and reasoning about Whis' proposal, said, "For what reason should I help you?" said Wukong, irritated, because he just wanted to be alone and rest a lot. The young angel apprentice, Kennan, who was silent, decided to speak, and looking at Wukong's serious eyes, Kennan said, "You were a born leader of your people, but now you turned your back and abandoned them. Don't you feel like going back to being a leader?" questioned Kennan, leaving Wukong quite thoughtful on the subject. Wukong replied saying, "I don't want to know more about leading, I just want to be in peace. That era has passed, now I'm in another. If you don't have anything else to say, please leave," exclaimed Wukong, irritated. The young angel Kennan decided to use his last argument to convince Wukong to accept the proposal. Kennan smiled and then said, "Currently the planet of the Saiyajin has a new leader. If I were you, I would not let them have another leader besides you," said Kennan, teasing Wukong, who was quite bothered. Wukong was irritated and at the same time curious, wanting to know who it was. Wukong questioned, "What leader is this?" questioned Wukong, interested in Kennan's story. Angel Kennan's apprentice said, "I won't reveal anything unless you accept Whis' proposal," Kennan said, smiling as he looked at Wukong, who was irritated, while Whis laughed at his young apprentice's daring. Wukong sighed and said, "Okay, I accept." Wukong spoke frustrated. The young angel Kennan was happy that Wukong had accepted and continued saying, "Okay then, follow me and I'll take you to the planet of the Saiyans," said Kennan, directing his speech to Wukong. Wukong didn't answer, he just stood up, making it clear that he was going to follow him. Kennan then floated away and Wukong followed him, walking. As the apprentice angel slowly levitated, Saiyan Wukong walked with an angry face and a deadly look on his face. Kennan and Wukong started walking a long way, leaving the temple where they were before. After leaving the temple, they found an open and deserted area where they would begin their training. Wukong began to stretch, getting ready for any and all types of training. Kennan also prepared himself, but unlike Wukong, the angel apprentice prepared himself only psychologically, as he did not believe he would use much of his power. Wukong didn't know what else to do and faced Kennan, waiting for him to say what Wukong would have to do. Kennan looked at Wukong with a confused look. The little angel apprentice was not used to being the master, quite the contrary, he was usually the apprentice, and another angel closer to him, in this case Whis, was the one who gave the orders. Wukong started tapping his foot impatiently. The fledgling angel Kennan came to his senses, saying, "Oh, man, I forgot. I'm the one who has to train you, right? Forgive me, I'm not used to this kind of situation at all. Since this is my first time being a master, I'm going to do what Whis always does. So now, just try to hit me, Kennan said, apologizing and at the same time trying to help Wukong. As soon as the angel Kennan finished speaking, Wukong disappeared and along with him, his presence as well. Kennan didn't expect that from a mere Saiyan, Kennan still remained in the same position. Wukong appeared behind Kennan with a punch ready, however, before delivering the punch, Wukong disappeared again and reappeared to Kennan's right, with his hands moving to try to hit him. Kennan didn't blink during that time, but he still dodged it like it was the most predictable punch ever. Apprentice Kennan looked at Wukong and said, "So, you want to know more about the new leader of your race?" Kennan said, facing Wukong with a sarcastic smile on his face. Such a comment enraged Wukong. After all, even if Kennan dodged that punch, it was not possible to speak in combat, but Kennan was doing it. Wukong was enraged that his punch was completely ignored, and his pride was hurt by an angel. But Wukong ignored this feeling of hatred and fury and said, "Yes, I want to. Tell me more about this mediocre leader of theirs, but I'll warn you that I won't answer what you ask, as I'm pretty focused on punching your face," Wukong said, still trying to hit Kennan. The angel Kennan laughed in a mocking tone and continued, "Well, you won't hit me anyway, and I'm very calm here, so I can speak clearly. The Saiyan crowned as the leader of his race is called Yamoshi. He is a powerful and very fierce warrior. I would say that he is currently better than you in fights," said young Kennan, explaining in detail how the new leader of the Saiyans was. Wukong was even more nervous because of Kennan's provocations, that his punches caused pressure in the air, partially destroying the environment around him. Kennan knew very well that he was hurting Wukong's ego, and that was exactly what Kennan wanted. The young angel Kennan kept teasing Wukong saying, "Don't worry about your people, all the Saiyans are being very well taken care of under Yamoshi's leadership. He may even be fierce, but he knows very well how to lead a population of warriors, and he knows a lot of ways to solve his people's problems. The guy is really nice. He is very studious. He searched ancient books and scriptures only to learn of their teachings and their ancient advice, including he is one of several followers of him," Kennan said, explaining even more about Yamoshi to Wukong. Wukong was now calmer and his energy was being spent more effectively. Kennan was making Wukong oscillate between stress and calm, precisely so that Kennan could find the best point between the two in a rational and intelligent way, so that Wukong would become even stronger. Angel Apprentice Kennan continued, "Look, now your attacks are getting more interesting. Very well, continuing. This Yamoshi has a castle, and he reigns from there. When his subjects want to talk to him, they go to his castle, so he knows what has to be done and what problems Yamoshi has to solve. That castle isn't too far from here. I'll take him there as soon as we finish his training. My guess is that you'll get better if you learn to control your anger and find a balance between fury and calm, so that you can concentrate all that destruction on a single target," Kennan said, trying to help Wukong, telling him to control this power. Wukong spent a long time punching and kicking, never landing a single blow, while the angel Kennan explained the way to the castle and took the opportunity to eat a snack. The angel apprentice announced the end of training and both rested. After recovering their energy, Kennan and Wukong slowly made their way to the castle of the current leader of the Saiyans, Yamoshi. Wukong looked eager to meet Yamoshi. The castle of the current leader of the Saiyans wasn't too far from the training ground, as the trip didn't even take 20 minutes. The apprentice angel known as Kennan approached the door of the great castle where supposedly the current leader of the Saiyans, Yamoshi, attended to his subjects. Wukong followed Kennan as he was curious about the identity of the new Saiyan leader. The castle guards noticed Kennan and Wukong's sudden visit and ordered them to wait, as Kennan and Wukong would soon be attended to by Yamoshi. After a few minutes, the guards opened the gates and upon looking closely, the guards were amazed to see who their visitors were. A castle guard who was astonished exclaimed, "It's not possible. Are you really Wukong? I can only be dreaming. Call the leader here immediately," said the castle guard, who was surprised to see Wukong. The recruits all responded at the same time, bowing. "Yes, sir," said the guards, withdrawing. Everyone went in an organized manner. Behind Yamoshi, the castle guard asked Kennan and Wukong to wait. Yamoshi arrived with his arms crossed and a frown on his face, thinking that it might be a strange kind of prank, but as soon as Yamoshi looked at Wukong, he lost his posture and was also surprised to recognize his idol. Yamoshi invited them to enter his castle. Yamoshi said, "Please come in. You are welcome here. A feast awaits us. Guards, prepare the best meal you can, as we have special guests today, said Yamoshi, inviting the apprentice angel Kennan and Wukong. Wukong and Kennan politely entered the castle and followed Yamoshi to a dining room. As soon as they arrived in the room, Wukong and Kennan could see two guards finishing preparing the table and pulling chairs for the three to sit. The guards served drinks to Yamoshi, Kennan, and Wukong and then returned to their position. Yamoshi took the first sip and started the conversation. Well, I haven't introduced myself yet. I am Yamoshi, the current leader of the Saiyan warrior race, and I must say that I am impressed. I already knew of your longevity, as I am one of your followers, but even having read about it, I can hardly believe that you are alive, and also brought what appears to be an angel with you. May I ask your name? Said Yamoshi, introducing himself and at the same time questioning the angel. Kennan was a little embarrassed and replied, My name is Kennan. Thanks so much for having us. It's a pleasure to meet you, sir, Kennan said, trying to be as respectful as possible. Wukong joined the conversation. Apparently my people's drinking has improved a lot. You are a good leader, Yamoshi. I also like to meet you. When did you start studying about me? Well, it looks like he's been at it for years. Not everyone knows what an angel is and still knows how effective my longevity is, Wukong said, praising the drink and at the same time questioning Yamoshi. Yamoshi was flattered by his idol's praise, who went on to say, Thanks for the compliments. It's an honor to receive this from such great guests. I've been studying about you since I was little. I'm one of your thousands of admirers. Also, pardon for taking your post, but I did my best to lead our people, said Yamoshi, trying to be modest. Wukong scratched the back of his head saying, No need to apologize, you did good. I am grateful for making my people prosper. No one better than one of my apprentices for such a position, said Wukong, boasting in a way. Before Yamoshi could say anything, the guards arrived and put a veritable feast on the table, with meat, fruits, vegetables, and even some desserts. Kennan took what looked like a candy and politely enjoyed himself with that food. Wukong took a meat that was juicy and devoured it, trying hard not to be rude. Kennan laughed and commented, Sorry for him. He was living in a cave. Maybe he forgot how to eat without looking like an animal, said Kennan, apologizing for his companion. Yamoshi ate the same way Wukong did, so he wouldn't feel alone, and they both laughed. Wukong spoke while laughing, I liked you. You just earned my respect, Wukong said, laughing and continuing to chew the meal. Yamoshi also laughed and said, That's it, said Yamoshi, laughing and eating like Wukong. Kennan pretended he was disgusted and teased, saying, Wow, these Saiyans are really animals. But this candy right here is a masterpiece. The fruits also look delicious to me, Kennan said, while tasting the sweets on the table. Wukong and Yamoshi touched their hands in greeting while continuing to laugh and eat their meat. Yamoshi stopped laughing and continuing the conversation. He asked, I forgot to ask. What do you guys do here? Said Yamoshi, questioning Kennan and Wukong. Wukong looked to Kennan for answers. The angel faced Yamoshi and got up from his chair, putting his hands on the table violently, scaring both Saiyans present there. Kennan then said, There's no reason. I just wanted to show you to Mr. Wukong, Kennan said, explaining the reason to Yamoshi. Yamoshi placed his elbows on the table and crossing his hands, said, Intriguing, well, I have a proposal for Mr. Wukong, then, said Yamoshi, who had a look of surprise on his face, which changed to a smile. Wukong was curious and questioned Yamoshi, saying, A proposal for me? What would it be? Wukong said, completely confused and curious about what Yamoshi would say. Yamoshi kept his smile on his face and said, Yes, I want you to assume the position of leader of the Saiyans again. After all, you were the best, said Yamoshi, making everyone who was present be surprised, to the point of not being able to pronounce anything. Kennan looked at Wukong, who was completely frozen, staring at Yamoshi. After a few minutes of thinking, Wukong answered Yamoshi, saying, No, I can't. You are a good leader, said Wukong, leaving Yamoshi surprised by the answer. Yamoshi gave up his previous posture, his elbows came off the table, and he stood up, saying, I don't take no for an answer. Let's decide that in the Jokenpa, said Yamoshi, leaving Kennan surprised, but Wukong had liked that idea. Wukong got up and went to Yamoshi, they got ready, and then they started. Wukong won the first, having thrown rock, and Yamoshi having thrown scissors. Kennan wasn't surprised by this, in fact he was a bit reluctant about it. Yamoshi won the next one, having played scissors again, and Wukong played paper. Kennan was surprised this time, but thought it was just luck. Wukong and Yamoshi played the same move 4 times, drawing each time. Now, it would be the last move. Kennan started to worry. A drop of sweat started to run down his face. Wukong and Yamoshi were making their last move. Wukong stopped Yamoshi when they were getting ready and said, "I know. I had an idea. Let's rule together," Wukong said, leaving Yamoshi thoughtful. Yamoshi then said, "Great, how did I not think of that before? You are truly the wisest," said Yamoshi, accepting Wukong's idea. Wukong, observing the situation, said, "So you accept it, young man? Saiyans will be able to have 2 rulers now," Wukong said, leaving Kennan surprised. Yamoshi looked at Wukong and said, "Yes, I accept. You are now one of the rulers of the Saiyans." "Congratulations," said Yamoshi, congratulating Wukong for officially being one of the rulers of the Saiyan Empire. They ate the feast, and Yamoshi left with Kennan and Wukong to announce their new ruler to the people. Yamoshi appeared in the center of the city, and on a kind of giant screen, Yamoshi said, "My people, a legend has returned. Now I'm not the sole governor of this planet. There is one more, someone you knew only in books or in stories your parents and grandparents told. But this Saiyan exists. His name is Wukong," said Yamoshi, introducing Wukong as the new ruler. Saiyans who heard it responded with a round of applause and shouts for Wukong. Wukong was amazed seeing this. He looked at Kennan, who was accompanying him, and gave an excited smile. But, as always, good things don't last forever. After the announcement that Wukong would be one of the rulers of the planet of the Saiyans, ships began to fly over the planet of the Saiyans. Yamoshi, Wukong, and Kennan were completely surprised to see the ships. Soldiers began to leave the ship, soldiers of the frozen race, better known as Frisia's race. These soldiers had an impressive physical size and all had the same shape. The soldiers had pointed horns instead of ears, their skin was white and they had no hair, just something purple instead. They had huge tails and were armed with different weapons. One of the soldiers looked at Wukong and pointed at him, saying, "You who lied to our boss. He died of old age. What you said was lie," said the soldier, completely revolted. Then a being came out of that tumult. This being was the same as the others, however, he was bigger. In both physical and fighting power, this being was the strongest among those soldiers. The being said, "Sorry for the fuss, and hello, my name is Frigg. I'm their leader. I took over the post after the old leader ended up passing away. And I come to announce to all of you, here and now, that the war has begun," said Frigg, opening a smile from end to end. The soldiers began shooting through the city, trying to destroy it all at once.
The frozen race soldiers had started to invade the place where Yamoshi, Wukong, and Kennan were. A huge explosion erupted, and in the blink of an eye, several Saiyans were injured, then killed by soldiers of the icy race. All the Saiyans of the warrior class surrounded the soldiers of the icy race, trying to intercept the soldiers to prevent more Saiyans from being injured and killed. Saiyans fought with punches and kicks, while soldiers of the frozen race had weapons that fired blast shots with the energy. Wukong and Yamoshi desperately thought about what they should do. Then Yamoshi had an idea. Yamoshi put his hand on Wukong's shoulder and said, "Run away. I'm here to deal with them," said Yamoshi, offering Wukong to flee. Wukong was surprised by Yamoshi's words, who responded by saying, "What? No, I can't. I'll stay. I can't leave you alone here." Yamoshi put both hands on Wukong's shoulders and rocked him, said, "Listen, now you are the new general of the Saiyan race. Your duty is to lead and keep the balance between them. If something happens to me, the Saiyans will have you to save them. Don't forget that," said Yamoshi, leaving Wukong speechless. The angel Kennan interfered, pulling Wukong by the arm, saying, "He's right, Wukong. We need to get you out of here soon." Kennan said, flying with Wukong to the skies. A number of guards who were at Yamoshi's castle earlier started to follow Wukong and Kennan, along with some Saiyans who were also following Wukong and Kennan. However, at one point during the war, several shots were fired in the back of the Saiyans and Yamoshi guards who followed Wukong and Kennan. Most of the Saiyans who followed Wukong fell to the ground unconscious. These shots were fired by the Frozen Race warriors, or better known as Frieza's race. The Saiyans and Yamoshi's guards that were left were on top of the Ice Race soldiers. They were fighting in a brutal way, hitting each other with punches and kicks. And every now and then some shots were launched in the direction of Yamoshi's guards and the Saiyans. The fired shots hit the Saiyans, who were still standing, hitting their bodies. The guards didn't last long either. After the Saiyans were defeated, a good amount of soldiers from the Ice Race army began to emerge to defeat Yamoshi's guards, who did not have the slightest chance and ended up succumbing. The Ice Race soldiers even tried to look for Wukong, but all they saw was Kennan standing in front of them with a single hand raised. Kennan left his hand closed and positioned it in midair. Kennan threw a punch similar to the punch of an inch. This punch triggered a wave of vacuum so powerful that it knocked out the Ice Race soldiers and sent them flying. Yamoshi was managing to easily defeat all Ice Race soldiers without exception. However, kings had to face each other, and that's what happened. The king of the Ice Race suddenly appeared behind Yamoshi, punching him in the ribs. Yamoshi was thrown back, but quickly turned around, looking at the king of the Ice Race, who said, "I think it's good that you didn't forget my name." "I'm Frigg," said the king of the Ice Race. Frigg went after Yamoshi again, but Yamoshi defended and dodged his attacks. Yamoshi had managed to land several punches and kicks in a matter of thousands, making Frigg fly away and have his defense completely broken. Yamoshi, looking at Frigg, said, "What is it? Are you going to give up already? We're just getting started," said Yamoshi, setting up his battle guard. Frigg didn't like being humiliated and went after Yamoshi, hitting him with several knees and slapping him hard. Yamoshi tried as hard as he could to defend himself from the attacks of the king of the Icy Race, but he couldn't defend himself from everyone, and even though his efforts were gigantic, Yamoshi still stood on his feet, not a little tired. Yamoshi threw Frigg away and glared at him as he said coldly, "You're good, much better than expected, but you'll need much more than that if you want to even pull a single meager hair from my head. While I can easily draw blood from you," said Yamoshi, teasing Frigg. Frigg didn't give in to Yamoshi's provocation, but Frigg responded in kind, as a king should. "You talk too much, mate. I highly doubt it's that powerful, even though you attacked me. I'm much tougher than you, and there's no way you can defeat me with the environment in my favor," said Frigg, already declaring himself as the winner. After saying that, Frigg picked up several rocks and threw them at Yamoshi, who easily dodged them all. However, Yamoshi didn't realize that it was a distraction that ended up causing the Saiyan to take a very powerful punch in the rib. The Saiyan Yamoshi refused to show pain and continued fighting as if he didn't feel anything. His pride was so great that even with his guard broken, Yamoshi still remained in his posture and standing. Yamoshi looked at his opponent from above and said, "Let's go, shortly." "Is this all you've got? I know you can do better than that," said Yamoshi, teasing Frigg even more. Frigg continued, "I'll make twice as much as you did, and you still tell me it's not enough? Then I will take 350,000 times heavier," Frigg said, trying to intimidate Yamoshi. Yamoshi laughed at the random number. "That was very specific," said Yamoshi, laughing at the fight continued. Frigg took a headbutt from Yamoshi that made him fly down, leaving himself vulnerable to the key shots that Yamoshi had just made. After Frigg hit the ground, Yamoshi performed an aerial stomp on Frigg, which caused him to spit blood. Frigg kicked Yamoshi, throwing him away, and teleported to hit Yamoshi, making him hit a rock, as if that wasn't enough. Frigg threw several stones toward Yamoshi, aiming at his weak parts. Yamoshi was hit by some rocks but managed to grab one, and then he threw it at Frigg, who ended up not seeing Yamoshi throwing the rock because of the dust that was in the place. But as soon as Frigg noticed a huge stone coming toward him, Frigg managed to dodge it, and soon turned to Yamoshi to mock his face. "Even throwing in my blind spot you're not capable of missing. No wonder you're so ridiculous," Frigg said, before realizing there was something wrong. The dust cleared and Frigg was surprised to see Yamoshi charging a powerful attack. The attack was a key disc with a high destructive capacity, which was thrown with everything towards Frigg, destroying everything around it. But Frigg had managed to dodge it and therefore was able to see perfectly how stupid he was. That disc was also another distraction that allowed Yamoshi to hit his opponent with extreme ease. Yamoshi obviously did a great job taking advantage of his genius plan. Yamoshi started a sequence of punches on Frigg, who was being beaten without any kind of mercy. The key disc thrown by Yamoshi started to come back, and the disc was twice as small just before hitting Frigg. The key disc had already traveled such a long way that it became smaller as it moved. The injury caused by the key disc was enough for Frigg to want to stop the fight, but Frigg, out of pure pride, would not give up so easily and lose to a leader belonging to the great warrior race of Saiyans. Then Frigg screamed, and a colorful aura took part of his body, making Frigg even stronger and consequently much faster. The Ice Race King started hitting Yamoshi using his speed and strength. Frigg appeared behind Yamoshi and hit him with a kick. But even before Yamoshi started to react, Frigg was already on top of him, hitting him with his fists. And soon after Frigg was behind Yamoshi, hitting him with knees and powerful elbows, the King of Saiyans had finally lost his composure, and by using that power, Frigg was bleeding from the nose. Yamoshi grunts of pain allowed Frigg to play with his face once more. "Where's that pose of yours? Weren't you the strongest around here? Because I thought you were stronger and less disappointing." Yamoshi, apparently, I was wrong. "Ha ha ha," Frigg said, mocking Yamoshi's face. Wukong had left the battlefield for a while now, but after almost an hour outside the battlefield, he decided to return, especially after hearing some extremely loud noises coming from the city. Apparently it was screams and explosions. Wukong was distressed and then flew away, going from the cave he was in to where Yamoshi was. Kennan tried to stop him, but Wukong was faster, and when he got there, he saw Yamoshi fighting Frigg. At one point when Wukong was about to go to help Yamoshi, one of the Icy Race soldiers had pierced Yamoshi in the chest with a shot. Wukong stopped right away. He was completely paralyzed. Anger at him began to grow. His hair, which was swaying in the wind, began to take on a yellow color. His eyes turned green and his hair turned yellow. And along with that transformation came a rumbling scream. The angel Kennan, who was following Wukong, said, "No, it can't be. This is not the form of superior instinct. I've never seen anything like this before," said the angel Kennan, completely surprised and without understanding what was going on. Wukong's blood pressure was rising more and more. His hair had turned blonde and was completely standing up. His energy was so intense that it paralyzed everyone who was there. It seemed that the air had changed, but it was just the crushing pressure caused by Wukong's transformation, who looked with purest rage at the soldier who had shot Yamoshi. Wukong slowly walked towards the soldier after getting close to the enough. Wukong made an energy blast that destroyed the soldier completely. Wukong wasted no time and looked at Frigg, charging at him, leaving the Ice Race King completely bewildered. Wukong hit Frigg with a knee on the chin. This caused a shock in his brain that would possibly make Frigg faint, but if he didn't have such an absurd resistance, King Frigg ended up being thrown backwards, crashing into several rocks. King Frigg quickly got up and went after Wukong, but was unsuccessful. Their auras were more apparent than ever. Wukong and Frigg could not be seen with the naked eye as they were moving extremely fast and hitting each other, non-stop. It was possible to see the trails of their auras tirelessly rising across the sky, curling around each other, and hearing the extremely loud noises caused by the punches. Wukong had a clear advantage over Frigg. He was hitting and disarming the Icy Race King's guard easily. The moment the Ice Race King's guard was destroyed, Wukong continued to attack without ceasing blows. Because of this, Frigg was seriously injured several times. After a while, Frigg could no longer fight back and continued to be beaten. Frigg was tired due to his fight against Yamoshi, which caused him serious damage. Wukong was punching Frigg's face non-stop, and in a moment, Wukong landed a kick on Frigg's face, making him fall to the ground, crashing with all his strength and severely injuring himself. Wukong still didn't stop. He started shooting several energy blasts at Frigg, hitting them all accurately. Wukong didn't stop attacking Frigg. Wukong quickly descended to the ground while the dust was still rising. Wukong grabbed Frigg's face and started dragging along the ground. The king of the ice race was getting the worst of the battle. Frigg was almost unconscious. In contrast, Yamoshi was on the floor, almost fainting. He saw the angel Kennan approaching him and then said, "Angel, please, help me," said Yamoshi, dying. The angel Kennan had a guilty conscience and then said, "I'm sorry, I can't interfere in the lives of mortal beings," said the angel Kennan, completely sad. The angel, after thinking for a while, realized that he needed to help Yamoshi. However, he was only going to get Yamoshi out of that deadly battle zone. Then the angel Kennan picked Yamoshi up and took him to a safe place. After dragging Frigg's face across the ground, Wukong threw him away, making Frigg hit a nearby mountain. Frigg was buried in the mountain and Wukong began to fly with his greatest speed, landing an overwhelming kick in Frigg's stomach. Wukong was faster than ever, and that last blow caused Frigg to be thrown away. Wukong stood still, waiting for Frigg to get up. However, as Frigg stood up, an energy surged on top of him, making the Ice Race King's body begin to increase in size. Frigg suddenly became muscular and extremely tall, taller than Wukong. After Frigg got bigger than Wukong, the Saiyan wasn't intimidated and ended up punching Frigg in the face again, who didn't even feel the punch. Frigg retaliated with a knee that completely caused Wukong's respectable defense to be completely broken, and then Frigg still gave him an elbow that sent Wukong flying away. Frigg teleported close to Wukong and hit him, changing his direction. Shortly after that, Frigg repeated the process over and over again. The Ice Race King was dominating the combat and was clearly less intelligent and less rational than before. Meanwhile, far away from the fight, Kennan was treating Yamoshi's wounds, who was deeply grateful for the help of the angel, who didn't refuse to help even though it was forbidden to do so. The Saiyan and the king of the ice race continued the fight. Frigg noticed that Wukong seemed to be completely bewildered. For Wukong, his attacks seemed to be easily predictable for Frigg, who in return managed to disarm Wukong's defense several times, hitting him in the most merciless ways possible. Wukong in turn tried to hit Frigg, but he was in a state where he felt nothing but pure hatred. Frigg grabbed Wukong by the face and threw him several meters, causing the Saiyan to crash against several mountains. Frigg didn't stop, and before Wukong had any reaction, he was already kicking and hitting Wukong incessantly. Wukong managed to land a powerful blow to Frigg's ribs, which made Frigg unable to hit Wukong anymore. Now the fight was truly even. Wukong and Frigg were exchanging blows so frantic that they produced shockwaves just by clashing with their punches. However, Frigg still had a slight advantage, but even though he was losing by very little, Wukong did not stop. The Ice Race King's stamina was truly incredible, as he was enduring 2 fights in a row without tiring. Wukong used Taioken, but the King of the Ice Race wasn't affected as much as Wukong would have liked Frigg to be. Wukong kept waiting for Frigg to enter the state of exhaustion, but there was still no sign that he would ever get tired, until Wukong remembered something he had. Wukong took out a dart with a powerful sleeping pill in his pocket and put it in his left hand without Frigg noticing. When Frigg tried to kick Wukong's waist, the Saiyan grabbed his opponent's leg and plunged the javelin into the Ice King's right leg. With that potent sleeping pill, it would be difficult for the King of the Ice Race to stay on his feet, and it would be even more difficult for Frigg to win this fight. The two continued to exchange attacks that their opponents had no way of defending. But Wukong was doing better in this fight. Better than ever. Wukong was giving it his all. He wasn't missing any key shots. He was dodging off all attacks and managing to counterattack easily, and Wukong was clearly faster, much stronger and significantly more powerful than his opponent. However, Frigg would never allow himself to be defeated so easily. He ignored the sleeping pill and continued hitting with everything he had. Frigg was filled with so much hate that he returned to remain stable in the fight, and his performance was no longer affected by the powerful sleeping pill. Wukong and Frigg were partially destroying the environment around them, and Frigg was worried as he thought the sleeping pill was poison. The fight was more frantic than ever. The effect of the sleeping pill was notorious in Frigg's body, but he didn't stop. His blood was hotter than ever, adrenaline taking up too much of his brain for Frigg to waste time worrying about the aches and pains. The fight wasn't exactly lopsided, but it wasn't balanced either. Wukong and Frigg had clear advantages in certain parts of the combat, although Frigg was even fiercer than Wukong. The fight continued until both were panting and separated. Wukong and Frigg were left with only their guard up, nothing more. However, Frigg had let her guard down for a mere moment. Wukong wanted to conserve his energies, so he chose not to risk it. Frigg, on the other hand, pressed his teeth together and his fighting power began to grow exponentially. Frigg was reaching a new form. His body returned to its original size, but from his own body, huge shoulder pads began to appear. His horns became one, and his head also began to expand. Frigg was stronger than ever, and Wukong could see it. Wukong tried to charge towards Frigg, but was met with a point-blank attack on the shoulder, which pierced Wukong, who was bewildered. And as the seconds passed, Wukong was met with even more blows. They stayed at this game until Wukong was almost collapsing from his loss of blood. But Frigg wanted to end it all at once. He screamed so loudly that everyone could hear him, and then Frigg began to transform. His transformation let him use 100% of his power. Frigg began to regress in expansion. He was without his shoulder pads and without his horns. His head also returned to normal size, and Frigg became absurdly stronger. Wukong no longer had the strength to continue, but Frigg apparently did. A little far from the battle, Yamoshi was talking with the angel Kennan. Yamoshi was terribly injured and very worried about Wukong, as Frigg had more chances of winning the battle, and certainly Frigg would not leave Wukong alive after winning. Kennan was taking care of Yamoshi's wounds, but he was also worried about Wukong, but Kennan couldn't intervene in the fight at all. That would further aggravate the problem, which was already very bad, but Kennan having to take care of the king's injuries. Saiyan warrior race. Yamoshi remembered that looking at the angel Kennan and asked him, "Why did you help me? Won't that cause serious problems for you and Whis?" said Yamoshi, questioning the angel Kennan. The angel Kennan showed a smiling countenance and said, "The problems for me are smaller, but I am just an apprentice. At most I'll miss out on the chance to continue progressing in my training, but that's pretty unlikely. Knowing Whis, he wouldn't allow me to lose my position so quickly and easily," said the angel Kennan, trusting his master, the angel Whis. Yamoshi realized that even with the odds in favor of Kennan, he was still taking a big risk. So Yamoshi looked at Kennan seriously and said, "You didn't have to save me. I would accept my death in an honorable way. You shouldn't care so much about mortals like that, even with the odds on your side. It might give you trouble," said Yamoshi, worried about Kennan. After saying that, Yamoshi started coughing up blood due to his severe wounds and being exhausted from his fight with Frigg. Kennan was scared by what happened and ordered Yamoshi, "Stop talking immediately. Your body is very busy having to deal with your anxiety and worry, and you are still injured. You don't put more weight on your body, okay? Or you will just die here and now." You're still getting the privilege of seeing the fight, so be quiet so I don't have to get you out of here, said the angel Kennan, asking Yamoshi to remain silent, otherwise it would be even worse for him. Receiving orders like that from an angel hurt Yamoshi's pride, but Yamoshi said nothing, as he was very grateful to Kennan for everything he did, who decided to obey the angel as a form of gratitude. Wukong had his hair in a yellowish color, however, as he adapted, his hair color returned to its natural color brown. Then, a completely white aura hovered around Wukong's body. It was the aura of Ultra Instinct. The angel Kennan faced Wukong's transformation awestruck and surprised. Kennan said that Wukong, he's using Ultra Instinct unintentionally. He's a monster, said Kennan, commenting on the new form of Wukong. The fight between Frigg and Wukong continued to be one of the biggest concerns of the day. Wukong managed to gather energy, but Frigg was stronger than ever. Wukong stood still, gathering energy with his guard up, because if he attacked, he would uselessly waste energy. Frigg advanced towards Wukong, who managed to dodge the onslaught, and with that, he kneed his opponent in the head. Frigg was completely out of his mind. The Saiyan Wukong was fighting using his intelligence and only countering Frigg's blows. At no time did Wukong attack Frigg. He just dodged and defended to open a gap for him as he could attack. By doing so, he didn't lose energy. On the contrary, Wukong was gaining energy and thus increasing his chances of winning. Frigg went back and prepared a powerful attack, but as soon as Wukong noticed the attack, he teleported behind Frigg and applied a rear naked choke. Wukong broke Frigg's posture and immobilized his left arm, leaving him unable to react. Frigg was incapacitated for a moment, but he wasn't shaken. Frigg butted Wukong in the nose, causing the Saiyan to release him from the rear naked choke. Wukong was bewildered. Blood was dripping from his nose. Frigg took advantage of the gap and punched Wukong in the belly, who was already injured enough to the point of not being able to defend himself. The punch that Frigg gave made Wukong run out of air and consequently was hit more times by Frigg. Wukong stayed on the ground trying to get up, but he had no more strength. Frigg looked at Wukong with a mocking expression and then began to kick Wukong in the stomach non-stop. Frigg did this while saying, "Where's all this ego of yours? The hate of yours? Where? Did you miss them? Depressing. You talk a lot and do nothing. I even thought it would be more fun, but nothing has changed at all. You are deplorable. Get up and show me what you're capable of. Or do you already have nothing to be proud of? Do you even have a reason to fight?" Frigg said, kicking Wukong hundreds of times in a row. Wukong prepared a blast of ki and fired at Frigg's face, rendering him immobile. Smoke was present on Frigg's face, so Wukong took the opportunity to take an acceptable distance and said, "Man, shut up. I have several reasons to fight and overcome myself more and more. I'm better than that I was yesterday. I can evolve even more. And it's not a reptile that will make me think otherwise," Wukong said, mounting his guard again. Not far from the chaotic place with hundreds of wreckage, Kennan and Yamoshi were watching. The angel Kennan looked at Yamoshi and then said to him, "Wukong is really amazing. I didn't know he could transform using the Ultra Instinct aura. Let alone withstand so many powerful blows like these. Wukong is an admirable person," said the angel Kennan, proud of Wukong. Yamoshi then said, "Isn't it? He's a really nice guy. That transformation is also new. I've never seen anyone use it before. But you know, Kennan, I have a new goal. I'll get a better transformation than that. After all, I can't be left behind either," said Yamoshi, willing to overcome Wukong. Angel Kennan had a smile on his face. He was truly happy to see Yamoshi's reaction. However, the fight did not stop. As soon as the smoke dispersed, Wukong was hit with several punches in the face and stomach, which left him completely bewildered. Wukong was being thrown from one place to another by Frigg. Wukong was completely and truly hurt. His body couldn't take it anymore. Wukong was almost losing consciousness, but even so, he kept standing, even though he was seriously injured. Frigg, seeing Wukong's determination, thought about resorting to dirty methods and trying to destroy those around him. Frigg then prepared a powerful attack and shot towards Yamoshi and the angel Kennan. Wukong, seeing that, thought, "Damn it, I need to save them. But if I fly, I won't be able to arrive in time. A teleportation might work, but I'll lose a lot of energy. I have to try." Wukong thought, already teleporting himself to the front of the attack, receiving it point blank. There was a big explosion and much of the environment was destroyed. Wukong took advantage of the explosion to disappear. Frigg waited until the smoke disappeared but found nothing, and then he decided to just follow his course and leave that planet. After Frigg left, Wukong came out from under the rubble, badly injured. That mysterious transformation known as the technique of the gods had disappeared from his body, and Wukong returned to his normal appearance from before. After a few minutes of thinking, Wukong remembered Yamoshi and was in despair while digging the rubble in search of Yamoshi. When looking to the side, Wukong saw the apprentice angel Kennan standing still and ran to where Kennan was and removed the rubble that was around the angel. After removing the rubble, Wukong saw that Yamoshi had a huge wound that had been caused by Frigg's attack. Wukong held Yamoshi in his arms and desperately said, "Yamoshi, can you hear me?" Wukong exclaimed to Yamoshi, who could barely breathe and was coughing up a lot of blood. The apprentice angel Kennan watched everything with a serene expression. Yamoshi opened his eyes a little more and said, "It's okay, Wukong. You should know that warriors like me are going to die on the battlefield at one time or another. Please, my mentor, promise me. Promise me that you will take care of our people," said Yamoshi while his eyes were closing. At the same time, a smile opened, and so Yamoshi died in Wukong's arms, who became serious in the face of the situation. After hearing Yamoshi's last words, Wukong, with a serious tone of voice, said, "Yes, I promise," Wukong said with an expression of pure hatred in his eyes. Hey guys, I know it's sad when today's video unfortunately ends, but don't worry because the next episodes are coming. If you like it, don't forget to leave your like because it helps us a lot and motivates us to continue with these videos that you like so much. Comment your theories of what might happen in the next episode and share the video with your friends so you can watch it together. That's it. See you guys.